Welcome everybody to another episode of the Out on a Limb podcast. And this is another special, I know I say this every time,
right?
But this is another special episode.
We're so special.
Right, because we have another in-house guest. Tobi Elbel is with us from Columbia, South Carolina. And as we were just talking before we went live, we've only known each other since like October, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
So
early October.
It's so crazy how, as you are walking on your path, people will come into your life and it's like your soulmate. And it's kind of like you had this agreement where, okay, at this point in time, this person's going to come in and we're going to connect. And so we often find ourselves saying, next time, let's do it quicker. So we're like, next time, let's not wait so long to meet each other, right, Tobi? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tobi is an amazing, she's just everything. She is an artist, a photographer, a channeler, a tarot reader. She has a degree in anthropology and physics.
I studied physics. I didn't actually get a
Okay.
degree in physics.
And so you know a whole lot about animal behavior and training, husbandry, primatology,
Mm-hmm. We can ask you anything.
veterinary and
Right.
medical sales as well. So kind of left brain stuff there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a jack of all trades, but a master of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So we were at a kind of like a
Holistic
spiritual fair
Holistic
type
fair,
of thing. And we were set up, and we don't do too many of those.
Right.
But we felt called to do that when I was in Columbia, in your neck of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And you were kind of diagonal catty corner doing your little tarot readings over there. And at some point I went over to
Little tarot readings.
Well,
You're
there were
doing
the
a
mini-
masterful.
mini tarot readings. That's what I meant.
Okay.
You're just petite and tiny, and I think of you as kind of little and nice and cute. Yeah.
Thank you.
But I think, I don't know, you had come over and I wasn't there when you were looking through my books and things. And so Will was like, I think you need to go chat with her. So I went over to talk with you and we started talking about Arcturians right away, ET stuff. And I said, oh my gosh,
Stepping out there.
where have you been all my life? Right.
Right.
And so we connected and we hit it off. And now, we're friends and we're doing a couple of other gigs on the side here.
Mm-hmm. I'm really
I have
excited.
to. I have to ask because, I mean, okay, granted, you guys are at this fair and all this kind of stuff, but how does one just like jump into a conversation? Because we're all fearful that we're going to say something.
I think
when
it was
we
a
first
conversation
meet
between you and
someone.
I.
It
so
was, to
Allison was
begin
out
with.
perusing the
Looking for
fair,
things to buy.
looking for things to buy. Right. Spend the profits that we still haven't gotten from the fair. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. We were talking about something and
We were
Maybe
talking
you
about
s-
your instruments.
that's right. My instruments.
And then
Somehow
remember
it
I
came up with something. The word galactic came into the conversation. I was like, hold on a second. What do you? Okay. And so we just went down that trail, and I said, when my wife Allison comes back around, I'm going to send her over to your table because we'll have some conversations at that point, because that's how it comes up. It just you just get that little glimpse, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. All the hairs kind of go up on the back of your neck, and okay.
Well, and the reason why I bring it up, so because we have a lot of people who are watching this that we assume are just entering into this stuff, or they're afraid to step out and express themselves, and so I kind of like to peek under the hood and say, yeah, this is how this occurred, because when people say, oh, I was talking to my spirit guides the other day, and you're like, what the hell? Are you just sitting there talking to them? They're sitting across from you at coffee.
Just having coffee with your spirit
so
guides.
that's why I like to point out those things.
Yeah,
That's another
absolutely.
good podcast. Coffee with your spirit guides.
Oh, I like
Ooh,
that.
that'd be good. That'd be
Everyone
good.
said,
That'd be a good name for a podcast.
I think I said something about booze with your spirit guide.
Oh,
Well, that works
booze
too.
Cocktails
It was
with your
like-
spirit
it was
guides.
something about
Yeah.
drinking. Okay,
So
commence.
from what I understand, Tobi, you started kind of your awakening, your journey around 2012, and it wasn't, it was a little bit rocky in the beginning.
Yes.
So we did an episode talking about our awakening journey and whether it was a dark night of the soul, which oftentimes it can be for people. So tell us about that awakening process, and would you consider that to be a dark night of the soul for you?
I would for sure. It was really precipitated by having my son, and I was in a difficult relationship at the time, but really having a child then opened up my eyes to what was really going on. So it really was brought on by having my son. And at the time I was training dogs as a passionate hobby. That was really what I did outside of work. And I started doing that in the early, had been 10 years at least since that I had been training dogs consistently. And but when my son was born, I started looking into, and because my background is in anthropology and I'm very have always been really interested in psychology and human behavior as much as animal behavior, I was looking at how people learn, how infants learn. And so I really dove into conditioning and operant conditioning. And so that got me thinking about how I was training dogs. And so the way I trained flipped completely. So I started training completely using positive means and without any leash corrections, anything like that. But all of that, I know that doesn't seem tied together, but it was really tied together because it really changed the way I started thinking about interactions with animals, with people. And that then led to, okay, but how am I living my life? Right? And what things are uplifting to me, and in what ways am I encouraging myself as much as I'm encouraging my son? And that revealed that I was not, and that I was really not living in a way that was true to who I am.
It's really fascinating how kids do that to us, don't they?
Yes.
I mean,
they're great clarifiers.
We think we're training up our children, but they're our biggest teachers for sure. And it makes us clean up our act, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, the way I was training was not necessarily viewed at the time in a real favorable light in the sport that I was training in. And so it was very much of, I had to stand up. That was the way I began to stand up for really what I felt was right, and the only way that I was able to do it. And so it just snowballed into this whole thing. And I was dealing with depression and some pretty severe anxiety at the time. And then, of course, was going to traditional therapy. And then about 3 years after that, I got to the point where I was had left that relationship and really was beginning to do things for myself, as well as my son, but making the changes in my life that were to my benefit, while reminding myself that that's really how I showed him how to do the same as he became an adult and a young adult. I felt like I kind of reached my max point at least at that stage in my life with traditional therapy, but through that process began to, and with the help of a particular friend, really began to be aware of the more spiritual aspect of life as well. I came from a very scientific background, and if it was not physical evidence, it didn't exist.
Right.
And so for me to to say that I've gone 180 degrees is an understatement. It's really because
so what would you say would be the first, spiritual thing that kind of kicked it off for you?
One of the first things, one of the first things was actually seeing something in the sky that I could not.
Ooh, here we go.
I know.
Okay, what was it? What did you see? Tell us about it.
It was
You can tell us anything here.
I know.
It's just us.
And a million other viewers. We're thinking big.
Wow, that would be awesome.
We're thinking big. That's right.
Was this green light, and it was on one of the nights when I was having a really hard time, and I went out in my front yard, and we lived out in the country, and so there weren't lights around, and there were military planes, but I'm also an aviation enthusiast, so I know what those look like. This is not what this looked like. It did not behave like a traditional human ship.
Right.
And it was kind of a lightish green color, and it was large in the sky. And but it was not a meteorite, anything like that, because it sat still. And it just sat there and it sat there, and I had chills and hair standing up on the back of my neck and everything, and then it just went and it was gone.
Wow.
So essentially its purpose was for you.
You know, I never really thought about that until you asked the question about this, in this conversation. But yeah, I guess so.
Just to start that triggering aspect,
And I think that was in 2012. Wow. And so then the next thing was a friend of mine who has very psychic, she's highly psychic, and so she was kind of talking to me about being an empath, because I had I didn't really recognize that. I mean, I knew I was very sensitive, but up until this point, being sensitive was a detriment, right? It was someone is a derogatory term, you know, you're too sensitive. And that was something that I had been told for decades. Sure. So once I started to understand being an empath, and I started to become really aware of how that was impacting my relationships, and how that had, not understanding being an empath had left me open to being in these relationships, I started to look for someone to help me really understand that, and either learn how to manage it and utilize it, or turn it off.
Yeah.
And so that was in early 2020 when I began working with my mentor, and it was just like from there.
Which, by the way, for viewers out there, it is a superpower. So don't turn it off. No. Find somebody that can help you manage it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find your cape and wear it proudly.
Just yes, I love that. Tuned in, like
yeah, because it really helps to understand yourself. I mean, if you, at that point when I was thinking about potentially turning it off, it was because I didn't understand it.
Sure. And it can be debilitating.
It absolutely.
Right. And a lot of people do turn, and that's the thing, is a lot of people do come to that point where, like, nope, don't want anything to do with it. They turn it off. But Spirit has an amazing way of kicking you in the ass over and over and over until you recognize, okay, this is really who I am, and I got to do something with this. I got to figure it out. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then looking back on different times in my life, I mean, in high school and from there on, I was the person, not the person, but like my group of friends, I always had people coming to me and asking for advice and talking through difficult things. And I just felt like, especially as an adult, I just felt like I was, you know, I was trained as an observer. And so I just felt like I was super observant, and that's how I knew these things. But
yeah.
Right.
Because you're describing me, and I wasn't trained that way. So it's,
it's really.
So how did that spiritual aspect of you then progress once you hooked up with this mentor and started harnessing
Besides off the charts. I had actually started working with the archangels prior to working with her, actually a couple years before. I don't honestly recall how that was sparked. It was, you know, probably it was brought to me by some means, but I don't remember what it was. But that helped a lot. And so then I started working more with my guides, and just in having her guidance to see how it had impacted my life and how it had been there all along, and I didn't recognize it. And I was actually using it all along, and I didn't realize it.
Right.
And I have always felt like, as an adult at least, that I wanted to be able to do something to help other people. And that whenever I've been in jobs that I wasn't, you know, I was always searching for something more, and I wanted to do something that would help other people. And so then in talking with her, she was like, you know, this is your path. This is, you know, this is why you've been writing. This is, exactly. It was like, ting, 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 ting. So
at what point did you pick up the tarot cards and the oracle cards? Tell us about how that transpired.
That's actually how I came across my mentor, who is Romy Wyser, by the way. And thank you, Romy. Thank you. I had never been exposed to tarot, didn't know anything about it. It was one of those things, it came across my feed in social media, and it was her reading, and I would say for some reason I clicked on it, but we all know why.
Yep, for some reason.
For some reason. And so that's kind of how, first that was my introduction to her. But since she was using the cards, then I was drawn to that too. And I was really fascinated by it. So I started just kind of playing with them myself for the purpose of connecting more to my intuition, just learning a different skill set basically within that. And then I began doing it for friends and relatives, and it just grew from there.
Is that her book?
This is her deck.
Can you shamelessly hold it up?
Absolutely.
And since you're here, I don't.
Can we see this?
Alex, let me.
Yeah.
I might be able to get that a little bit better. I'll put it here, and then.
I just thought,
Yes, absolutely. That's her deck. It's the Life Soul Vision Oracle, and she does actually have a book out that just came out, and I just received it, and I haven't even opened it yet. So I should have brought that today, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask you to pull
fantastic.
A card for our audience a little bit later.
Sure, I'd love to.
And what I'll do is I'll also put a link to this, to the book and stuff in the bio. So yeah.
Thank you.
Toby, you and I connected over the ET thing because, of course, that's kind of my.
So what's your connection with the Arcturian thing? Like you just said, oh, Arcturian, and you said, oh my God. I mean, there had to have been.
No, I think you told me that that's who came to you in meditation. So tell us how that whole thing. How did that happen? Like, how did you connect? Cool. Were you always interested in ETs? Like, I was always fascinated with that sort of stuff as a child.
Yes, me too. And that I started out in physics in college. Always been interested in the stars, and Stephen Hawking was one of my heroes.
I avoided physics in high school.
I couldn't spell physics in high school, so
That's a good.
I loved it. And it unfortunately I did not love calculus, and so I loved the theoretical aspect of physics, and I really wanted to study black holes. But I didn't really want to do the math. I mean, I didn't mind.
Yeah, it's kind of required.
Yeah, kind of required. Kind of required. But so yes, I've always been really interested in ETs and space, and in meditation. I guess it was 2020, because it was not long after I started working with Romy that I had, because I sense my guides in a physical way. They actually.
Oh wow.
I feel, this sounds really weird, but I feel them in different parts of my head. Or different parts of my body. And so
I completely get that. When I first started channeling, my team, the collective, they would physically take seats on my shoulders. It was like a stadium seating.
Yeah.
And one would sit and I'd be like, okay, they're there. Okay, they're there. Okay, yep, we're all there. No, then I'd go into trance.
Yeah.
So that's how they would present themselves.
Interesting.
And I'm feeling it now, like tinglies
over
my
around
head.
The crown,
And then when I would start, bringing anything through from them, my nose would always. So I was always doing this one, and I finally said, "Okay, guys, this has to stop," because I was constantly doing that.
I do that.
Well, even Suzanne Giesman has a little lip thing when Sanaya guides come in. So
So there's these little tells.
So keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. So I worked so in meditation I started feeling this new sensation. It was actually like around my third eye. And then I was getting these different messages from this particular guide, but it was very very comforting energy, very soft actually. It was very there was actually a point in time when I didn't hear from him that much. And when I asked why, it was because you need a stronger voice. Like you need somebody who is going to be like, a little bit harsher, like tough love type of energy. And he was never been that way with me. It's always been a very gentle type of energy. So yeah. And then at one point, I asked his name and he told me his name, and I was like, that cannot possibly be your name, because it's a very human, generic name. Sam.
Right.
Sam.
And that was the Arcturian.
That's the Arcturian, right.
But then he's Sam in the Bible.
That's true. That's true.
But then you can't imagine.
It's not what you were expecting.
Some Arcturian, Sam.
Right, exactly. I was like,
call me Bob.
Well, and that's what he said. He said that you wouldn't be able to understand pronounce it, but this is a name that you can recognize. And so Yeah, and it's been a very interesting journey with him. But it's so one of my favorite times in communicating with him was that I asked him, because whenever there's a bit of a separation in time when we don't communicate, whenever he comes back in, I just feel this overwhelming sense of love. And so I asked him, why do I feel this way? And he said, because, now I have chills, because thousands of years ago, we were what you would call family. And so that's why I feel this sense of home and comfort whenever I connect with him. And it's just beautiful. Really
that is beautiful. And
amazing.
Arcturians specifically have a really strong relationship with humanity because they have been with us since the beginning. And I talk about that a little bit in the book. When I first was introduced or started channeling them for the chapter in the book, I asked them, why do humans feel so close to Arcturians? They really do. And they shared that they've overseen us and our development and our evolution, and
right from the
they've always been there to support us. So we do go back thousands, millions really of years till humanity's inception.
I was going to say, has Sam helped you with your understanding of black holes at all? I mean, have you? No? Oh, okay.
Well, that's where it's kind of going with it.
Right.
Like when you're.
But I never asked.
Well, there you go.
Now
you need to ask.
That's the thing. You're sitting there, doing a meditation, and you feel his presence come in. Is it? Then are you thinking, oh, I have like 5 questions I've been dying to ask you, or are you just kind of communing with him to see what he says?
Most of the time, or used to be, I would just kind of commune, just be like, okay,
what you got from
what you got, that kind of thing. But I've become more intentional with it, and like, all right, I have a question. Can you help me with this kind of thing?
Yeah.
His messages are more for me to share with the collective, is generally the feeling. I mean, I do get personal messages, but they're not so much personal guidance.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways they are, but they're more task oriented. Like, this is what you might as well plan on this, is because this is what we need you to be. I mean, he showed me at one point, I saw myself in the middle of this deep trench almost between 2 big cliffs, and but the energy from me kind of went all the way to the top, and so the metaphor was that I would be some sort of bridge type aspect.
Yes.
So
yes,
I just want to point out, how that's like a common thing, like, because people are like, well, why don't you ask them about the lottery, and stuff like that. Right. And it's these things are generally not for our benefit. Like, you don't serve yourself, you serve, those around you. And so, and it takes that question coming in for the information to go out, and it just.
And if you're asking for lottery numbers, then you're not ready anyway to be doing that kind of work, I suppose. But I love how you said that. The theme about the bridge, because I think a lot of us, as we awaken, the point of our early awakening is to help others to cross that gap. For you, I see very vividly that it's probably from the left brain scientific people bridging the gap to the empathic, intuitive person, because it's fascinating and unique that you have all of your left and your right brain are so kind of harmonious, really, because you have your artistic, which are left brain, creativity, all that sort of stuff, and then you have this physics side of you that's interested in black holes and all that, and can understand that and explain that to others to some degree. So that's a very unique quality, right? And so for me, I know that I was the bridge between the Christian or religious aspect and the greater spiritual understanding. Samantha, do you find that you are kind of helping certain people close the gap, bring them over? Phoebe.
No, I've just always been very.
Oh, fun.
No, but I've the work that I've done. I'm very entrepreneurial. Very. I never saw myself as creative, but I always did marketing and photography and web design, and I could do that but then I could switch into a reading. Like I could be working on a website and then jump on with a client and do a reading, you know, and that kind of, you know, because people said, oh, no, your mind either works this way or this way. And I'm kind of going, well, mine's better. You know, it can go both ways and it's fine. So I don't, I
mean, for myself, I don't know. I don't find myself as being so much of a bridge.
But
do you know what I
the thing is, we're more normal. Like, and I think that's the thing is that we're not
like,
the airy fairy, you know.
Right. I can be down there wrenching on a car, pulling an engine, doing all that stuff. And like you said, you know, oh, I got a client at 4:00. Well, let me knock off at 2, take a shower, come back up here, and then I've got a client, right?
Yeah.
You know, so and I go into trance for an hour. So
we're doing the more normie thing.
Right.
Balancing
it,
and making this woo-woo stuff normal.
Yes, that's right.
Very important.
Well, that's really what came through early on in our, you know, in our discussions with the collective is that we're, you know, it's this, you know, it's that, and for yourself too, it's that we're all that bridge from, you know, the norms of society into this versus, you know, in the 70s or, you know, what 60s and 70s, you had to be the hippie and you had to be the flowy and I don't own cotton. I don't own linen. And I jokingly
don't do yoga.
I don't do yoga. I jokingly say I want to be the only metaphysical person that's sponsored by Under Armour because 90% of my clothes has Under Armour on it. So Under Armour, if you're listening, I'm here. I'm your guy. You know.
But where I see you being the bridge actually is, and we talked about this in the car on the way home the other day, was between the masculine and the feminine.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Because it's so important right now for masculine role models that aren't the aggressive, traditional, dominant male energy that has been killing our planet for many, many years.
That's true.
And bringing that divine feminine and allowing men to see what that looks like, to be in touch with their emotions, their intuition, and
you know,
balance.
So I was listening to a channeling from Theo on this other podcast, Beyond Worlds. I think it's Beyond Worlds. It's really good. So Theo was channeling, and the message coming through was about the need for that we've gone too far with the feminine in men, you know, like younger than you, that we've gone too much to that side, and we need to balance it back, that we need to have the balanced masculine archetype back in our society, and that's necessary for that to occur to get us through all this that we're about to go through.
Good point.
And, you know, and so I feel like you seem to be balanced that way, you know, and that is, I think that's what people need to see, that it's, I don't know why it went so far, you know, whatever, but they're just like, it's just a tipping thing and it's got to come back a little bit. So it's, yeah, because I think the feminine's pretty balanced out now. I mean, we still have our issues, but that's hormonal.
So Tobi, in terms of the tarot and oracle cards and things like that, you know, it's a good way to start getting in touch with your guides. Yes. What was the first deck that you were drawn to? Tell us about how that worked and what kinds of messages, what were you using them for? And was it some personal growth and messages?
Yes, absolutely. I've found that the readings that I do, even now as I'm doing them on my YouTube channel or for clients, 95% of the time, they're very much spiritual growth or personal growth oriented. And so I started with the Light Seers Tarot. And that was my first deck, and used it.
That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to start with Rider-Waite.
I know you're supposed to.
But and it's so impressed. You just broke those rules. Go girl.
That's me. I got to do it my way.
Right. That's right. Mold breaking, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm an Aquarius, so what can you know?
Several of us are rebels up here.
Yeah. Yes. But I used it for a lot of times, to begin with, I was using it around certain astrological transits, like with the new moon or the full moon, or different times of the year, the month. Yeah, it's a helpful tool for setting intentions around certain times too. It gives you some guidance from your guides as to what you need to be focusing on. Sometimes it was just a certain time frame, like what do I need to be aware of this week, or what can I look at to grow further this week in this time frame?
So I have to ask, Did it work for you?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I got too impatient. Like I'd ask a question and I'm like, nope, that's not it.
That's
Well,
not impatience.
that's where the
That's
trust
refuse
comes-
to listen.
That's where the trust comes
My
in.
question
It's
is,
hard
are
to-
you using tarot cards or are you using a crazy 8-ball? Because that's, I mean, come on.
That
Not
might work.
today.
Right.
That's gotta be wrong.
I've certainly had those times where I pull a card and I'm like, really? Does it have to be that?
Yes,
Does
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
That's
can
what
I-
I'm saying.
It's hard to do it for yourself. I will say that.
I look at it and I just go, no, that can't, no. So it doesn't, I don't know, I'm impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Because you were listening to your messages.
It is. I find it easier to read for someone else than I do myself.
Sure.
Yes.
Because definitely there are times when I look at the cards and I'm like,
Why does that happen though? Because it's a feeling you get. Like and it's not that you're sitting there going like, oh, this is BS, but it's just like, nope, that can't be right. Like it just
Really?
The cards are showing you what you haven't wanted to see
I
already.
I was just going to say, it's
Right.
called a reality slap in the face.
Right.
It's here you go. You wanted the answer.
Yeah.
Here it is for you.
Yeah.
And we
don't like that.
we right. we don't. Sometimes we don't like the answers.
I'd rather pay someone a lot of money
to tell you the same
me
thing.
that.
Right.
And then I feel so much better.
And then you can shove that blame right across the table
Yes,
back to them.
exactly.
They said it.
That's hilarious. So I know that I used oracle cards. Oracle cards are a little tamer, a little more mild for those who are just venturing into this spiritual. I mean, the Rider-Waite stuff is a little more complicated, a lot more complex in terms of learning what each card means and then using your intuition and all of that. And you have spreads. Oracle cards, you often can just pull one card and get some feeling about your day or whatever. So that was how when I first started venturing out, and I write about this in The Journey Within. So if you want to read more detail, it's a hysterical story really, because I was very much a conservative, normal person, and this was really outside of my comfort zone. But I found myself in Barnes and Noble looking at this
You're in
wall.
that section.
Right.
Yes,
It's like going behind the section that has the curtain.
and I was looking behind me to make sure
Nobody sees you.
I'm an educator. Everybody knows me. I mean, I have like 350 students
And several
a
of your
year.
students were in that aisle.
Probably, yeah.
There's just a lot of people that could potentially know me, right? So I have to be
Yes.
careful. So I'm standing there, and the first thought was, hopefully nobody's watching. And the second thought was, I cannot believe there's so many decks of cards. My God. So I'm looking through them, and I found this nice one by James Van Praagh, The Soul's Journey. And I just gravitated towards it because I trusted James Van Praagh because I had seen him on Oprah, and he was a big deal. I mean, anything that was on Oprah was normal, right?
Right.
But
So you could have held that up and just said, Oprah said to get it.
Yeah, that's right.
sure. So it's really cool though, because it has
Those are pretty.
just plain cards with a word. And then of
Yeah.
course you can use the book if you want more detail, but humor or indecision or courage or health or adversity, just whatever. And I would pull one a day and it was so spot on. And I think there's one in here called, I don't know, death or a scary one, right?
I like the mandala.
And it was-
Mandalas, yeah.
Mandala.
Yeah, they have a mandala on them as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
But
really
it's
cool.
but I remember being afraid I was going to pull that card, and
Yeah.
but it made me investigate, why would I be afraid of that?
Right.
What do I need to understand to be okay if that card comes up,
Yeah.
or any of the cards that could be construed as possibly negative? But this is a really good way to dip your toe in the water and to start tuning into your guides and trusting that information. Yeah, I like
Okay,
that.
so since we're talking about reading, I have to ask you,
Mm-hmm.
do you read them upside down or right side up, or only right side up?
I read them intuitively. So if it comes out reversed, if it doesn't feel reversed in its
Yeah.
in the
meaning,
meaning
yeah.
I'm getting from it, then I
You're
don't.
beyond that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I
seeing
read
the
it.
symbols and whatever's coming through. Because that was when I was learning how to do it. I'm very ADD. I'm going to have a bunch of little alphabets here, ADD, OCD, whatever. It drives me crazy if they're upside down. If I give someone the deck and they start messing up with it, I'm like, oh, Jesus God, here we go. And I got to put them all right.
Now I got to
side
cleanse
up.
it. I got to put it under crystals. I got to do all my
No,
stuff.
it's not that bad. I
do
just
all the
needed them
things.
right side up. And for me, it was just a particular, but it didn't affect the quality of my readings.
Right.
Yeah.
But it made me feel better. So I bet I like that you said that, because you learn with the book, and then you step away and you allow whatever meanings that become significant between you and whoever's channeling with you,
right?
To come through.
And I feel like that's ultimately the point. That's really good.
And then we step away from that, and we just
whether you're using a pendulum or a card deck or whatever it is, it's that initial connection, and then once you start getting the messages, you can let that go a little bit.
I never went down the card route. I have the least thing to know about tarot cards. I I understand what tarot cards are, but I don't know one deck from
kind of bragging.
I don't know.
I'm kidding.
He skipped that level.
I guess I've done that throughout life. I've skipped many levels during life. I didn't take that course. Oh, okay. I guess I should have. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, but it comes down to, it is that you're building trust is what you're doing, right? You're building a layer of trust when I'm going to pick up oracle cards because they're calling to me, or maybe this is my gentle way of starting, or I'm going to pick up a particular tarot deck, and it's just building confidence in your skill set and doing that. For myself, all through my life, I'm one that says, screw it, I'm jumping in the fire and I'm going to see where I land, and just see what happens. And my cutting of teeth of the whole psychic and trusting what comes in, a friend of ours was holding she was putting together a psychic fair, and she called me and said, I would like you to present as one of the psychics during our psychic fair. We're going to have like 12 psychics, and we want, and I know you don't do it often, but I'd like you to be there and do it. I'm like, I don't really want to do it. And now I talked to Allison about it. She said, you need to call her back and tell her you're going to take one of those spots. I'm like, what? I said, okay, sure. I said, what's the worst that can happen? A couple people are going to sit in front of me, and it was 2 days, and it was like, I don't know, 5 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
It was good practice.
Well,
right?
what I didn't know, and I thought it was like, oh yeah, a couple people will pay as they're coming through. Oh, I want to go see Will, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, these people signed up ahead of time. When I walked in that Saturday morning, I had clients from the time it started to the time it ended every 20 minutes, and with a 10-minute break in between.
No.
Every 20 minutes, I had a client. A 20-minute session, or a 20-minute session, 10-minute in between.
Yeah.
Love the ever-loving crap out of it. It took me so far out of my comfort zone, but its spirit just said, hold my beer, I got your back, let's roll with this. And the whole first day was nothing but psychic readings. Every single person that came to me was psychic readings. Sunday, when I showed up, they were spaced out every other slot. Even though there was a slot there, they gave me time to recover, and they were all mediumship readings. Every single one of them was a very in-depth mediumship reading. And it really was phenomenal how Spirit put that together and said, here you go.
Practice, yeah.
Trust yourself and trust our connection with you.
Yeah.
So
Tobi, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've got one more pet peeve I'm going to bring up.
Yeah.
A pet peeve?
Yeah. All these little. Sorry, I'm purging here apparently. No, but the other thing that gets me, like, okay, with oracle cards, I've had the hardest time understanding oracle cards because I started off with tarot and that was my thing, and I realized finally what it was, that there were people in groups that I would be involved in, and they'd say, oh, you want me to do an oracle card reading for you? And, of course, geez, 3-1, sure. I would just observe, these interactions and stuff. And the person would pull a card for the individual, and then they would open the book and they would start reading it.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so I'm not alone on this pet peeve. It's like, it's okay if you're doing that for yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it for yourself initially, but the whole idea, the books are beautiful, and they are beautiful.
Yeah.
But you have to, at some point, step off the ledge, away from it. Yeah. And it just so you know, if you're out there, do not even charge for something like that. Because I have seen people charging for it. And TikTok.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's TikTok.
But that's TikTok. Like you're buying a rose or something, I think. Whatever those things are.
See our short episode on discernment.
And if you ask someone a yes or a no question, they're going to be 50-50 right. So that's another one.
Yeah.
But and you can't ask yes or no questions. Or have you had people ask you yes or no questions with tarot cards?
I have. And so I just kind of, again, intuitively, if I get I hate to define it as positive or negative, but something that, leans towards that, then I'll know.
Sure.
But you're also interested in astrology, correct?
Yes.
So if I recall correctly, you're on Facebook and you're doing some readings. Is it weekly, I think? or
I don't
just
really,
whenever the
Like what's coming up for the week?
Yeah, it usually is. It's once or twice a week, but sometimes I'll have them around certain events. Like I did one last week for the full moon coming up this week.
right, because I knew they were
And then-
astrologically related, but
Right,
you're
a
also
lot of
using the
times.
cards. So tell us how that works. How are you? What does that look like?
Usually it looks like it depends on how I'm doing it. If I'm just doing or kind of depends on how I'm called to do it, I should say. Oftentimes they ask me to do a collective reading on the energy around, say, the full moon that's coming up, or I did one for Pluto going into Aquarius, which happened on March 23rd.
Okay.
And so, however, sometimes I am guided to do like elemental type readings. So I did readings around the different elements of fire, water, earth, and air. And so those can be kind of broken down too into the different astrological signs. And then sometimes I'll do readings that are just specifically for a particular sign. It just depends on what I'm called to do.
Well, I like
So
that
it's
you're
a
using your
blend.
intuition.
It's not you're not doing like a whole astrological chart. You're doing a blend of the cards with astrology. Is that?
Yes, a bit of astrology. I'm not an astrologer, but I am
Okay, that's
really
what I was
interested in it and have learned a lot about it on my own. But it does seem to play a part in the readings that I'm called to do.
Interesting.
That it's very tied to whatever's going on cosmically and astrologically and the energies associated with those and where we're led or pulled or what's being highlighted with those different transits and how that works with our energies and what we're experiencing at the time.
You know what I was just getting download? Like this is the way that you're doing this, like you're painting this information, out so people can visualize, see it, hear it, whatever. And I got this download, this realization that this is the renaissance of metaphysics.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it is like, I was just thinking, because I started thinking, like I saw the painting, I go, oh, Leonardo da Vinci. And then I'm going, it's interesting because Leonardo did his thing and he did not box himself in. And yet you had the guy who was behind the oxen in the field plowing day in, day out for his life. And that was like it. And now here we are, you don't just be a tarot reader for life or a medium for life. You weave this really complex, just whatever kind of pulls you and you bring it in. And so nobody I always tell people when they come in for a reading, have you ever had, an intuitive reading? They'll say yes or no. And I'm like, well, this is how I do it because there are many different ways because people have these expectations and you can't hold what one person does and compare it. You might prefer one style over another, but it's all across the board now.
Yeah. And it goes back to I think there was a hot, the hot word of the day was alchemy at one point, right? It's that blending of all the different modalities that we learn or that we pick up over time. And we've talked about this before, and it's taking that and making it your own creation. Expression, exactly. And that's the beauty in it. And when you honor that, it is a direct connection. Solid direct connection.
You're channeling.
Exactly.
Which we said is why it's so difficult to define ourselves. To even put a website up with what we do. How do we know what we do?
Metaphysical artist.
We don't know what we do.
A metaphysicalist.
Metaphysicalist.
Yeah, so I'm asking Tobi for her bio. Like, what can I say that you do? Everything. I don't know. I do this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we just need a Leonardo da Vinciist. There's something there. I don't know. And we talked about this, not in a podcast, but just in one of our conversations many, many months ago. And it's like, at some point that word, not label, but that word, that descriptor will come up that invites all of it in, but lets people know that, yes, we have this special area of interest.
Right.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's not been invented
It'll
yet.
get there. Yeah.
So Tobi is going to grace us with a little bit of a reading for our audience. What do we need to know today? And this will be effective, correct me if I'm wrong, for our current audience who watches this live and those that watch from here on out.
Yes.
So if you're energetically tuned to watch this podcast, then this information will be for you.
And she's doing them upside and right side up, just so you guys know they're all
to make Samantha happy.
Yes.
No.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I'm a little OCD
You are?
about that too. When I'm shuffling, I like to try and make them so that if it does come out upside down or reversed, I should say, that it's,
There's some
then
attention.
I know for, yes,
So
but I know for
nervous
myself.
doing this at all, or are you feeling good?
Doing the reading?
Yeah.
No, I'm less nervous doing the reading than I am talking.
You stepped in. Like, that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do it over here so it wasn't so loud for them.
I did have a question
That's so
about
beautiful.
when you were talking about Sam and that Sam was a little too gentle sometimes. Who was the guy that told you that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Sam told me that.
Oh, he did.
He did tell me
That's
that.
why he
Who was
doesn't come
the-
around as much.
Yes.
Okay.
So who was the one that was a little bit harsher? Athena.
Athena.
Oh,
Well, that would make sense. Yeah. Didn't she?
Yeah, she kind of comes in and kicks me around a little bit.
Who
When
else
I
is
need-
on your team?
Archangel Michael
Mhm.
is really, I would say, my main guide because he's there always.
He's like in everybody's.
Yeah,
He's a busy
business.
dude.
He's
Yeah.
a busy
busy.
dude.
He's
He's a busy
busy.
dude.
He's amazing.
really is.
What's a little funny, little anecdotal story with that. So we were out, where were we with Judy? And it was right around Easter. And we went to
up in Maryland?
Yeah, up in Maryland, up to a Catholic
Somewhere outside of Brunswick, Maryland, there was this little grotto type of
grotto.
place.
That's what. Yeah, yep. Okay. And it was right at Easter, so obviously,
Was it Easter or
It was right around-
some
it was-
Christian holiday? For
anyway,
sure.
there were a lot of Hispanics that were gathering for whatever.
The
you know,
Stations of the Cross they were going
Stations
to.
of the
There was
Cross
a lot
and
of
all that.
Catholics. Mhm.
Right. So we were walking, and they have statues of a lot of the archangels. Well, we get to Archangel Michael, and they're all
Everybody's
posing around
waiting
him.
in line to get
They're
a
all
picture.
posing around him and taking pictures and selfies with Archangel
my gosh,
Michael.
that's
And all this.
It was hysterical.
yeah.
So later that day, we did a channeling at Judy's house, and I asked Archangel Michael, like, how did it feel to be like the center of attention and everybody wants to take a picture with you? And he was just like, all of the archangels are important. Da, da, da. He did not take
politically correct about it, huh?
He didn't take the bait. He was not. Yeah,
Oh,
it was funny.
that's cool.
All right. So what you got for us,
You
Toby?
guys are gonna love this.
Oh, good.
Uh-huh.
So we have the spirit lion.
Oh my gosh!
Of course
course we
Yeah,
do.
I'll see if I can get that a little better.
Without the glare.
And it's card number 20.
That is
There we go.
Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, look at the lion.
Isn't
he-
that just too
Oh.
coincidental?
I love that.
I know that's
Oh.
So what are you getting? What are you sensing?
I'm getting that it goes back to what we were talking about, intuition. I'm really drawn to you probably won't be able to see it, but there's a keyhole in his third eye. And I'm really drawn to that in this card for the collective, that within that space is the key to the clarity that you need through this time frame. That and at the bottom of the card, she has spiritual strength. So that is where your spiritual strength lies. But I feel like there's also a white butterfly on the side of the lion's muzzle. But I feel like there's something I'm getting a sense of it tickling him. It's being a little irritating. It's something that's a bit of an annoyance. So if there's something that is a bit annoying at this time, it's just causing a little bit of discomfort in your life, that it's there actually it's a bit of a test so that you can maintain your focus and bring your awareness to that internal spiritual strength. And because he seems unbothered. You probably can't see that, but the lion seems very unbothered. So this little bit of irritation is meant to be seen as just that, a little bit of irritation, but through
him.
right. Yeah, exactly. And for the collective as well, you're massive in your energy and your power and your spiritual strength, and to not be distracted by whatever the small irritation is. And if you're unsure how to do that, then to tap back into your intuition and using your third eye. And maybe if you have trouble with that, working on opening your third eye chakra. But yes, definitely what I'm getting. And a sense of real clarity is
Wow.
available there.
I love that. Give our audience some advice on how to open up their third eye. What would you suggest if they're kind of newbies?
For newbies, I would say I usually recommend using different frequencies and listening even to those while you're sleeping or if you're starting out meditating. And there are plenty of options available on YouTube that are free, but different sound frequencies, whatever. And I can't recall what it is for third eye chakra.
Yeah,
Do you know what it
it's
is?
not off the top of my head, but yeah.
I know it's,
Is it 432?
yeah, I'm thinking 432
That's
is
what I was
love. And, but
so
I
that
think
must be
it's,
heart.
yeah, I think it's, oh no, I can't remember. Yeah, because I look at them all the time and I know 432's.
But just put in
Heart,
third eye
so-
frequency in YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of,
Yeah, there will be lots of things on there that you can listen to, and working with any of the crystals that are associated with the third eye chakra too are really helpful. And even in meditation, I do a visualization where I just visualize it. First, I do a bit of a cleanse where I visualize water washing over it, and then visualize almost like the water, if you're feeling like it's blocked, the water then being kind of a gray color. So you're visualizing it being cleansed and then filling it up with white light and then feeling it and visualizing it pulsing and growing and rotating in its color.
Awesome
Beautiful.
advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and for those that might be stumbling across this, and I mean, they have an idea that the third eye is here, but when you're in meditation, if your eyes are closed, if you just roll your eyes up just slightly, just maybe to the tip of your nose into that center spot and focus into that, that's, the spot at which you can then enter into your third eye or find yourself into a meditative spot where those, the colors and the, the different essences can start helping you change and open that up for yourself. So
Perfect. Tobi, are you seeing clients on the regular or only at fairs? How can people get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me through my website. It's tobielbel.com, and
Let's spell that too.
yeah, that's
TOBI
ELBEL.com.
and it'll be down in the comments or in the description as well.
Yeah. So you can book there or email me, and it's tobi@tobielbel.com. Either way, but I am seeing clients, and most of the time, because many of my clients are not local, we do it over Zoom or Skype or FaceTime, whatever works best for the client.
That's awesome. And what about your artwork and your photography? I know you do note cards and different things like that. How can people find out about that?
That's also on the website, and I do have an Etsy shop as well. But the website's an easy way to see everything. I have a page on the website is dedicated to the photographs. So many of not everything is on there, but many of them are on there. I also have a page that lists out the events that I'll be at. So if you're in the Columbia area, I will be at the Melrose Art in the Yard Festival coming up on April 16th.
Awesome.
And then the YouTube channel, you can access that through there as well. So it's all available through the website. That's
fantastic. We thank you so very much for being present with us. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
So much fun and laughter.
Yeah.
I appreciate you inviting me and having me here. It really has been
Absolutely.
fun.
Yeah.
We got so quiet. Why did we get quiet?
I know we did.
We got quiet because
you have a very soothing voice when as you're telling us all your information, it's just very relaxing.
We got quiet because there was something I was going to mention and then it slipped in my mind, but it came back.
Oh, yay.
Love how that
Sam
happens.
just needs to talk about whatever.
Thank you.
Then it happens.
What I was going to mention is I can vouch for the packaging in the note cards and things like that are unbelievable. They're gorgeous. The way, the attention to detail that Tobi puts into her products. So if you're looking for a unique gift, a very thoughtful gift, I'd highly recommend those.
Oh, thank you so much.
Go see it now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining us for this hour, for taking time out of your day to spend it with us. And if you found this valuable, please share with others who are on their journey of awakening. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you wish. And we will see you next time.
See you guys.